LASIK surgery, and the letters are still really big. So, but I'm not wearing contacts or glasses, which is pretty fun. I've been wearing glasses since I was 7, so this is pretty interesting. So, Rebecca Denlinger is a lifelong Lancaster County resident with over 30 years experience working in local government. She served as Elizabethtown Borough's manager since January of 2020. Prior to coming to E-Town, Rebecca served as borough manager in Columbia Borough, and in the past life was known as the Borough Circuit Rider. I'm sure we'll hear more about that. A senior economic development planner for Lancaster County. She earned her Bachelor's of Arts in Economics and Political Science from the University of Delaware, and a Master's of Public Administration from Penn State. Rebecca is married to Eric Denlinger, and when she is not working, you will likely find her on the sideline of a high school or college lacrosse game, cheering on her 2 sons. Before I bring Rebecca up, I don't have Ann Rhoda's bio.
We can make stuff up.
So, I can make stuff up. So Ann Rhoda, married to Mark Rhoda, and has 3 daughters, dog, brand new camper,
a boat,
board member for Mount Joy Swim Club. You do have you have a new boat that you did not approve, but you have a new boat. Ann's one of my closest friends. Love Ann Rhoda. Please welcome Rebecca and Ann.
Now I want to know how much of that was true.
Right. Almost all of it.
Good job.
I think on the boat I said whatever. Okay, come on in here. Okay, so Ann and I are going to tag team a little bit. And so yes, I was known as the Borough Circuit Rider. I'm Rebecca Denlinger, Ann Rhoda. I'm the Borough Manager here in Elizabethtown. Ann is the Assistant Borough Manager. My career path brought me to Elizabethtown many years ago when I was the Borough Circuit Rider for the County of Lancaster. And essentially, I worked for the county planning department, planning commission, but the director at the time said, you don't work for the county. What I want you to do is go out into the boroughs of Lancaster County and find out what they need and help them with whatever it is that they need. And I was known as a Borough Circuit Rider, which was an economic development planning position. And one of my first partner communities was here in Elizabethtown. So I got to come here to Elizabethtown when the Main Street program was just getting started. Beth Wood-Bergman was here, if anybody remembers Beth, and Pete Whipple was the borough manager, and I got to work with Pete. And it was one of my first experiences working in boroughs, and it probably cemented my love of boroughs because I think that they're very special places. So one of the first things I wanted to do was ask any borough resident, past or present borough residents, and they, okay, so we have a couple. Okay, good. I think boroughs are very special places. Obviously townships are special too, but there's something special about boroughs. They're very community oriented. Everyone's getting involved. Everyone's taking responsibility for what happens in the community, and I've loved my work in the boroughs. When I, way back when, wanted to be a borough manager, I would talk to Pete about it and how he was doing what he was doing, and he was always a bit of a mentor for me. So I appreciate many years later, the opportunity came to me to come to Elizabethtown. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite things about working in Elizabethtown is the management team, which is why I wanted Ann to be here today. We've got a wonderful staff. I put the borough staff against any other municipal staff in the county and the region. A great team. We have a management team of 5, myself and Ann, Police Chief Ed Cunningham, Public Works Director Jeff Kinsey, and our Planning and Zoning Director Pam Roberts. And very hardworking. Ann is extremely detail-oriented. She's very good at what she does. And there's no way that I could come and speak to you about borough stuff without having Ann here, because Ann does a ton of work. You need to know that. So, coming to Elizabethtown Borough, one of the things that we work a lot on is planning. And whether it's planning for our operations and the budgets, or our capital planning and our capital budgeting, we're always trying to kind of work in the business of the borough, but also on the business of the borough and looking ahead. And so we've spent a lot of time over the last few years working on capital planning. And what I wanted to do today, what we're gonna do is tag team a little bit and talk about some of our bigger projects that are ongoing, but some of them that we're also planning for. So we'll start with everybody's favorite topic, wastewater. Not everybody's favorite topic. It's exciting. stuff. If it didn't work, you'd all wanna talk about it, so, right? So anyway, we have, a capital budget, capital planning in place for the wastewater treatment plant, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 to $16 million worth of projects that we're teeing up for the next 10 to 15 years. Considerable investment. Two that I'll hit up quickly. One is improvements at the plant itself, the plant out on Amosite Road. So we're working on a number of projects that are related to making sure the plant operates. And again, the guys that work at the wastewater treatment plant, they're a strange group, but they are the best at what they do. And they have made that plant work and run and sing for decade after decade, without having too much capital investment in it, but now it's time. We have to start investing in the plant to make sure it runs for many years to come. So we're working on a number of plant-related projects, and then Radio Road.
That's gonna be a large-scale pipeline replacement, or line replacement that's gonna go from Radio Road at the start of the borough line, right at the Mount Hope Township line, and go all the way through out to the plant. So touching, I think it's over 100 different properties within the borough, from Radio Road out to the treatment plant, looking at the capacity of the line, reducing some of the infiltration of rainwater and stormwater into the line, and impacting the flow to the treatment plant. So that's gonna be a very large scale project, 24-25 timeframe.
Yeah, so I think we're in permitting now.
Yes.
We're in permitting now, which could take forever, but it shouldn't take forever. We should get through that, and we should be under construction sometime next year. What we're working on right now is permitting, but also finding the financing to make that project work so that it's not a major impact to our ratepayers. So we're working on that right now. So that's a major project. So we'll get off of wastewater. Another big area of infrastructure that we work on, again, we're working on, but we're also looking ahead for roads and bridges. Roads and bridges also include our stormwater management, our inlets and curbs and sidewalks. We're on Groff this summer and College.
Yeah, so this year, we just finished up some sanitary and stormwater work on Groff and College. We will be paving those two roads in August, and a little bit of paving over on Brown Street. And then our crews are starting to do sanitary and storm sewer work in preparation for paving in 2 years. So they're out on East Willow Street, West Willow Street, out in that area for sanitary and storm sewer projects. We will have another large sanitary and storm sewer project that we'll be putting out for bid on East Willow Street this year, and then portion into next year.
So again, we're always looking a few years ahead with our road program, our sidewalk program. One of the decisions that Borough Council made recently was to take responsibility for the ADA ramps. So essentially, when we're looking a couple years out for the road work we're going to do, we communicate with the homeowners in the area. We do a sidewalk evaluation, and we'll let homeowners know if they need to replace their sidewalk. At the same time, the borough will now take responsibility for the ADA ramps. It's very important that they are done correctly. And so the walkability of this community is extremely important. It's something the borough committed to many, many years ago. And so now we're taking responsibility for the ADA ramps going forward. Go ahead.
Another large infrastructure area that we're looking at are the bridges, the many bridges that we have within the borough. We have a bridge maintenance plan, and slowly looking at each of those as those are inspected. Every 2 years, where do they fall within the PennDOT range? So this year we are doing repairs on 4 bridges. We're looking at a replacement project next year. So we have almost a 5-year plan out for bridge replacements, and looking at the inspections of those, whether that's work that's done in-house by our crew or we have to contract out. So that's another key infrastructure piece, are the bridges that we have.
Yeah, so another thing related to the roads are our intersections and our traffic signals. And so who remembers when the truck was traveling on Market Street and tried to take a right onto West High and kept hitting the pole until the pole could no longer take it and the pole fell down? So now we're working through a replacement of that traffic signal. Has not been a quick project, and so we are still working through that. Right now, there's a temporary signal in place that we're working on, again, permitting through the state, and then we'll be able to order the new signal and get that in place next year. That's a next year project, so these things take time. Glenn, I think you mentioned supply chain. You know, something as big as a traffic signal, the poles and everything, that's gonna take us some time to get here. So, but it is another big project that we're working on. Yeah.
Could you two stand a little closer to the
Yes.
microphone?
Sure.
Yes.
And talking to talking to the microphone. Sorry, I apologize. Normally, my kids will tell you I'm loud enough. Okay, so we talked about the traffic signals. Okay, so a number of our bigger projects are in our park system. And so Ann's gonna go through the three big ones, Pathway, Community Park, and Hickory Lane Park, and I'll move so you
Yeah,
can.
so, very exciting news. So, over the last number of years, the borough has worked very closely on advancing a pathway system that goes from the train station down through downtown, out through the park, and then the last piece is connecting it to Elizabethtown School District property where the middle school and the high school are, and then connecting it over to the college. That portion of that last segment connecting to the high school and the college, the pavement is in the ground, the lights, another supply chain issue, but those lights should be installed by the end of this month. So that last segment of the pathway going from the train station out to the college through town will be complete. So that's very exciting, something that the borough has been working very closely with and working to complete. I think another one that's very near and dear to our hearts is the community park. So in November, we took down Fun for It to make way for a new playground system. So this new system, working very closely with YSM Landscape Architects, General Recreation, and Play for All Consulting to improve that play system so it's an all-inclusive play system. So you have accessible play for handicap needs and all other inclusion items. So that playground work in Community Park underway right now. So if you drive down Mount Joy Street, you'll see things are starting to come up out of the ground, which is very exciting. Willow Works, Playworks has been really working through the details of that, looking at the inclusive play sets as well as concrete and poured in place. If anybody has gone there with children or younger children, no more mulch in the sneakers. And also the poured in place from a safety factor. And then there will be seating and shade areas built within this new structure. So it's going to be very exciting to see. We're looking for a June timeframe for completion. A lot of it is weather pending, and when if we get a rainstorm, how they're putting the concrete and things in, but looking at a June timeframe for that. And then the other area that we're looking at as part of our park system is also for our MS4 requirements for our environmental obligations. And that's out in our Hickory Lane Park. We have a large piece of parkland that's out there with a stream area that can be used within the community. A lot of kids go in and play, looking for snakes and all the other good things in there. But looking at that area as doing a stream and floodplain restoration. Meets our obligations for our MS4 program, but also looks at that park system and improving that passive park space and making it usable for the borough residents. So looking at the two bridge systems that are there, replacing and repairing that infrastructure, pulling back the stream bank, reducing the flow of the water, pulling out sediment that's there, and adding a grass pathway that would connect from North Lime Street out to Radio Road, all within areas that are owned by the borough. So that's another project that we're in the planning and permitting stage for right now. Looking at also a 24-25 timeframe for that, so it's completed. We are working to coordinate the Radio Road Interceptor project and the Hickory Lane stream restoration work because it's connecting the same and touching that same stream restoration area. So hoping that those two projects move coordinated, but looking at the use and the ability of that park to be used longer term for that neighbors and the connection to the borough.
Okay, so we're talking about a lot of projects, and it takes money to do all of these projects. The borough has done very well in terms of planning, long-term planning for our finances, and we work very hard to, again, look ahead and apply for as many outside funding sources, grants, other resources, so that we're stretching the borough dollars as far as we can. And we've been very successful over the last few years at going after and securing funding for a number of our projects. So that's great, and it is an important part of our work. Another project just to touch on quickly is the train station parking management project. So this is a PennDOT Amtrak Borough project, where we will be getting pay lots at the train station. So currently it's free parking, but they will be going to a pay system. We are coming online, much like the station at Middletown and station at Mount Joy have now come online with paid parking. We will be getting a paid parking management system. So that's a next year project as well. And we're working through all of the details and contracts with PennDOT and Amtrak on that, which is always fun. Good people to work with. Okay, really quickly, because I'm sure there are questions, there are a lot of planning initiatives that we're working on, so hopefully you've heard that as a region, we're updating our regional comp plan, so that's with our partners, West Donald Township, Mount Joy Township, and Kenoi Township. So that planning effort is, we're in the thick of it now. We will hopefully be wrapping it up this year and have a new regional comp plan to work from, and that also helps us go after funding, of course. And then there are two other planning initiatives that we're working on here locally that are somewhat related. Community Park, we're going to be doing a new master site plan for all of Community Park, which seems a little strange because Community Park is largely developed, but we want to take a look at it with fresh eyes and make sure that as a public space that it's safe, it's accessible, that we're maximizing the space to the best of our ability. It is a heavily, heavily used and beloved park, and we want to make sure it's in the best shape going forward. And then also in coordination with that, we're going to be doing a downtown development plan, which is really exciting because again, we're talking about public spaces, safe and accessible downtown spaces, and also looking at downtown properties and any redevelopment opportunities, which could and should include the property the borough owns at 56, which is the most historic property in the borough. The borough purchased that property a number of years ago. It was slated to become the Borough Hall, the new Borough Hall, and those plans were scrapped right as COVID hit, and we became a little uncertain about our revenues. So that project was shelved, and now we are kind of unearthing that as a project and working with some local partners to see how can we best use that space at 56 North Market Street for community use. So we're looking forward to an exciting project there. And we also have $1 million that the state gave us to make something special happen there. So that's planning. On the public safety side, you probably have already heard about MESA. Did you have a MESA speaker? MESA, the emergency services. Yes. Okay, so everybody's familiar with MESA. We're part of that, proud to be part of that. Last night at our Borough Council meeting, the Borough Council approved us working with a number of municipal partners to look at further consolidation of police services. And so that's a study that will be done with technical assistance that the state will provide. So I'm sure you'll be hearing much more of that as that moves forward. And I think that I'll stop there and we'll take questions, but I have a question first. Does anybody know when the specific date the Borough of Elizabethtown was incorporated? The specific date. I'd even take month and year. Anybody know?
Yay.
How about just year? The year of Elizabethtown Borough's incorporation. Anybody want to guess?
It's a big one.
Right, so yeah, someone's backing into their numbers. You celebrated the 175 a number of years ago.
2007, 6, 7, somewhere around there.
Okay. Somebody take a guess, because I gotta give a prize away.
1400.
Not 14. A better guess.
1801.
That's close. 1801?
1807.
1807. Okay, so my friend over here with 1807 gets it, whoever said it. It's 1827. So in 2027, the borough will be celebrating our bicentennial. And we are starting to put plans in place now for a wonderful celebration. So who said 1807? You get the borough, the official borough umbrella. To keep the rain away.
I was gonna say, it's a goal to have 200 red lights on the bicentennial.
That would require a lot of work.
Yeah. So if you're familiar with the folks that serve on Borough Council, we have Phil Clark. Hopefully most people know Phil Clark. He works, obviously he's a Borough Councilman. He serves with the Historical Society. He's kind of our local historian. He is going to be leading our bicentennial planning effort. So we're looking forward, even though he's going off of council at the end of the year, he's going to be staying with us and working on the bicentennial. So that's a great role for him. So we're excited about that. And with that, we will take questions.
you talked about the borough. What other things are there, like towns, townships, cities and all that? Can you talk about the differences, why you were a borough versus anything else? And do you have different rules than a city does and stuff like that as well?
Right, so there are, in Pennsylvania, there are a number of different types of municipalities. So there are cities of the first class, second class, and third class. There are boroughs, straight boroughs, and then there are townships of the first class and second class. So we all fall under somewhat different rules. Townships have the township code, the borough falls under the borough code. Cities have their own code, and if you've been paying attention to Lancaster City, they are now researching home rule. Any municipality can become a home rule municipality, which would allow them to put in place a set of different rules, separate and kind of above and beyond the code that they follow. And the code is mandated by the state, and essentially it tells us what we can do from the state's perspective. They tell us all of the things that we are allowed to do.
And
how
the
we-
sizes?
It's kind of strange. The size is not a factor in what you are. It's how you are incorporated.
No,
Not true.
not true for townships.
Okay.
Townships of the first class that typically have 25,000 residents or more. Anything under that is typically township of the second class.
Yeah, so, and boroughs likewise, as boroughs have grown over years, some of them, as they reach a certain level, and it might be in the 15 to 20,000 range, they could choose to become a city of the third class, if those rules would help them grow and be a sustainable community. So, yeah, so they do have that option, but it's a considerable amount of work to change from one to another.
And just for informational purposes, Marty, Lancaster County only has one first-class township, and that's Manheim Township.
Correct.
East Hempfield is getting close, but they're not there yet. All the other townships, and there are 60 some odd in Lancaster County, are second-class
There are
townships.
60, yeah, so there's,
What's
yeah,
the one that
61.
is?
Manheim Township is a first-class township. And that's purely, I don't like saying that, but because it sounds like they're the best, but it's not, that's just because of their size.
Yeah, so they have township commissioners as opposed to supervisors, which
Right.
second-class townships have supervisors. Boroughs have borough council people. And different boroughs are set up differently in terms of, we have wards here, as folks are elected by ward. Some boroughs are just all elected at large.
When you look at Elizabethtown, we have a lot. Is there anything that you can think of that we don't have, that we should?
That we should?
Yeah. I know that's a big question.
That's a good question.
Good.
You know, I think Elizabethtown is really well balanced. So I worked in a lot of different municipalities, and Elizabethtown is very well balanced in terms of the type of business and industry that's here. So we have large manufacturer, but also a lot of small businesses. We've got a downtown that is growing and will grow and change over time with a good mix of retail and professional businesses. We've got a college, so not many communities can boast that they've got a college. I'm trying to think of something that we should have that we don't, and I'm not coming up with it. So I came from working in Columbia, very special community, has its own set of challenges like any community, but the river is what they're forever going to hang their hat on. It would be great if we had access to the river.
If we had a river.
If we had a river, right.
How much would that cost?
Depends how big they make that wastewater.
And to tag onto that, I think we're, in the Northwest region in general, we are very well balanced.
Very well balanced.
We're
and-
very well balanced. We have ag, we have commercial, we have, there's a reason why a lot of people want to live here
Yeah.
and travel to other places.
So what was interesting to me, working for the county many years ago, the Northwest region was always very independent. So as a county planner, we went through a time where the county commissioners at that time were trying to send us out and have communities adopt our stuff, adopt our codes, adopt our ordinances, adopt our land use, whatever it was. And the folks here in the northwest part of the county would always say, no, thank you. You know, we're okay, we got it. We know how to do what we need to do here in this part of the county, and we're okay. Very independent, and always very much working together cohesively in the region. And I think that also makes it a kind of a sweet spot between the Hershey, Harrisburg, and Lancaster area, that this Elizabethtown region has always been able to stand on its own. Yeah.
Now, do you guys take into account, because Elizabethtown is in the middle of everything, really. It's half same distance to Harrisburg, York, and Lancaster. When you guys plan, do you, and you're gonna forgive my ignorance, do you have a certain amount that you allot for residential, a certain amount that you allow for business, industrial, agriculture, and how do you code that, or how do you determine that?
I mean, it's all based on zoning, right?
Okay.
So our zoning dictates what's allowed to develop and where, and how densely, or how not, or how it's not going to be developed. And so, every municipality has to allow for all types of development, and that becomes difficult, in an urban area where sometimes you can't allow for all of the ag or the conservation types area that you might want to allow for. And that's why planning, or even zoning as a region would be beneficial, because then we wouldn't have to be worried about allowing for everything.
I was gonna say, does zoning cross borders,
It
like
does
in a
not.
township? It
This is
stops.
not, everyone
it
has
stops
their
at the
own,
border.
yeah. So years ago, the county tried to do, even just a simple zoning lexicon, where we looked at all the zoning ordinances across all the municipalities in Lincoln County to try and find the similarities. Because what we were hearing from developers was, I wanna develop here, but I also wanna develop in another, and all of you are defining things differently. Can't you define your R1 district the same across all of the municipalities? It's very, very difficult to do, but that would be helpful.
Well, following the 2010 comp plan, we did go through an exercise here in the region of trying to harmonize our zoning lexicon. And I think we did a pretty good job of getting R1s to be similar. They might not be exactly the same, but they are similar. And I think if you look at this Northwest region, yes, there are differences across the zoning ordinances, but they're like brothers and sisters. They are not like foreigners to each other. So there are things that overlap. And for instance, we redid our sign ordinance a while back, and we followed Mount Joy Township's example, so that because we know that we intersect in so many places, it made sense for us to try and follow their ordinance to be similar. And I think there's a lot of that cross-pollination that exists. They're not, completely night and day different from each other.
So when the Kmart Plaza is being redeveloped right now, and they are working across two different codes, it's not as difficult as it might be in some places, because we do have some crossover between us and Mount Joy Township and West Ottawa. I mean, the line that goes through that area
Mhm.
is crazy.
Weird.
Yeah, very.
First, a statement. Hopefully, this Amtrak pay to park has supply chain issues. And second, did you say Groff Avenue is gonna be paved this year? That's wonderful. That's terrible up through there.
I don't think we mentioned it, but are you gonna address the meters, like, are you gonna change?
Yeah, so
like,
once,
parking?
what we're doing in terms of parking management, we're working with PennDOT and Amtrak on the train station. The way that we've asked PennDOT to spec the management system that we will get is in a way that we can then build on it for our downtown and our own lots. And so what you'll see over time is, it'll start at the train station, and then it will grow out into our on-street and off-street parking, gently. Because right now, paying a dime for 2 hours,
Slow down.
right, I mean, yeah. But yes, so that is coming. And so part of that downtown plan that I talked about will address parking. So that will be a major component of that.
So Denise, a dime versus a parking ticket.
Yeah, the parking
But it's
tickets.
only for an hour. I need to be able to like add time from my phone or something, like something.
Can you address why the meters do not line up with the parking spaces?
So we had PennDOT in not too long ago, and we were looking at some safety issues in terms of our crossings. And we were not compliant in terms of the geometry that was needed from the crosswalks to the parking spaces. And so we had to adjust the parking spaces. So instead of, at this point, pulling out the parking meters and trying to figure out a temporary solution to parking We just numbered the meters to go with the spaces, and that's a temporary solution until we get the parking management system in place. But it was really a safety issue in terms of the sight distance at crosswalks. Yes, sir.
Do you have the parking spaces counted behind the train station?
Yes, they are all counted. Yeah. And so the upper lot and the lower lot will both be treated in the same manner. So it will no longer be considered one daily and one long-term, it'll just be parking.
Do you know what the rates are gonna be?
It'll be similar to what they're doing in Middletown and Mount Joy, which I think is around $2 a day, something like that.
Yeah, we're still working with PennDOT and Amtrak on that level of detail of what the rate would be set at.
And there's not a time frame that it's from 6A to 6B,
I
and
mean,
then
there was,
it's free after that, or
No.
lesser of a rate or anything?
no, it would be parking at all times, yeah. Because what they don't wanna have happen is, one of the lots in the Middletown, Easttown, Mount Joy system be so much cheaper or available that it drives people from one train station to another station and overwhelms that station. So they wanna make it as consistent as possible.
Who do you report to, and can you talk about your relationship with the township borough, or the borough council and the mayor and all that?
Yeah, so in Elizabethtown, we have a 6-person borough council. Again, they're elected by wards, so we have 2 elected from each of the wards. And that's borough council, so there's a president, a vice president, and 4 members. In boroughs in Pennsylvania, the mayor is primarily responsible for the police department. However, in most boroughs, as it is here in Elizabethtown, the borough council also has responsibility for the police department. So it's a bit of a shared responsibility and authority. I report to President Hershey. Mark Hershey is our borough council president. I found this borough council here in Elizabethtown work very, very well together. They are very thoughtful. They don't rush things. So it's been a good working relationship, and I've enjoyed building that relationship with them over the last 3 years. Do you want to hear about how other townships or boroughs are set?
Just
or?
mainly what we do. And so the mayor really doesn't have any power or
So
authority?
he breaks ties. His role is to break a tie. If there's a tie vote, the mayor will break the tie.
And so the mayor attends all the meetings and
The
that's
mayor
what?
does attend all the meetings. He has the ability to speak and offer his thoughts at any time. Yeah.
I think I heard you say that you have been working on a regional or comprehensive plan, or about to work on that.
We are working on it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so with respect to either, like, what would be some of the challenges that you see that the borough's facing, either within the borough or maybe decisions that the outlying municipalities might make that would affect the borough? Like,
Yeah.
what are some of those challenges that you're
So
seeing?
John and I might tag team on this a little bit. What's been interesting, we've been working with the Lancaster County Planning Department. Staff from Lancaster County has been facilitating our planning process, which has been wonderful. And it certainly has saved us a lot of time and money in terms of hiring consultants. What's been surprising to me about the process so far is that the plan we are drafting right now in each of the different elements, whether it's transportation or economic development or ag preserve, residential housing development, that things really haven't changed too much from the last time this region went through a regional comprehensive planning process, which ironically, I was actually working in the private sector and was part of the consulting team that worked on the comp plan in 2010, when I was working for Rotary. So, but that's been interesting. It really hasn't changed much, which means, this region really knows who it is, and they know what we want. I think we are gonna be taking a look at our urban growth areas and making sure that the development we want to see happen, that we have enough room in those urban growth areas to make it happen throughout the region. I think transportation and our corridors are extremely important, and so working together again with the townships to make sure that any transportation planning that's done is done regionally and not just looking at maybe constraints of one municipality over what's happening in the others. The housing is a very, very critical issue of making sure we've got a good balance of housing levels and choices here in the region, so so that people can start out here as in a starter home and continue to move up as they wanna, move up into bigger houses, and then also be able to downsize when they get to that retirement age. So, I don't know, John, there hasn't been too much that's been surprising.
There's not a lot. The municipal planning code, that's the other code we all live under. The MPC requires or directs you to look at your comp plan every 10 years. We got delayed a little bit because of COVID, but basically in a 10-year cycle, you're supposed to refresh the plan. And I think Rebecca said it pretty well. It's mostly what's happening now is we're retelling our previous plan with some minor tweaks. And we're kind of retelling it in the style of Places 2040, which is the current comprehensive plan for the county. And it's gonna go from a binder that's yay thick down to that much. But it's the meat. It's not all the other stuff. It's the meat of what we like, what we wanna maintain, what we need to see change. And it's not really different.
It is, and I think from the borough's perspective, one of the things that we will likely focus a little bit more on in this plan that wasn't in the first plan was, we've got a downtown, we've got a central business district zoning as well as mixed use zoning, and we will continue to focus on that. But one of the areas that we will maybe put a little bit more attention to in partnership with the college is that College Avenue connector. So making sure that we've got a really good connection between the college into the downtown, so that the students and everybody feel safe and have a way, and it's connected either visually or otherwise, to get them from the college into the downtown, so they take more advantage of the businesses that are there.
I think the other little difference too, Wayne, is we're gonna be focusing more in this plan on infill and redevelopment of existing land, and not necessarily development of new land. From West Donegal's perspective, we still have undeveloped land within the urban growth area. So it's not like we're looking around for, okay, we need another 100 acres of residential land. We're not in that position. And I don't think Montjoy Township's in that position either. So I think infill and redevelopment of existing land is gonna be something that's in this plan that maybe wasn't so much in the previous plan.
Yes, sir.
There are 4 of us sitting here that live at Masonic Village and one more that's coming. What do we need to know about the relationship between the borough and Masonic Village that we don't already know?
Yeah, we have a very good relationship, a good working relationship with Masonic Village. There are a number of very specific things that we work on with Masonic Village, but also just a good relationship with Mike Rowe and what's going on out there. So we have wastewater agreements with Masonic Village, and we make sure that we're treating the wastewater and making sure that we're serving you in that respect. So not much of Masonic Village is in the borough. Very, very little of Masonic Village land is in the borough. But we also are working with them on, we're studying the intersection of Bainbridge and
Masonic Drive.
Thank you, Masonic Drive, it goes like this. So we're studying that because that is an intersection. Now that Canoy Crossing development is done, we wanna make sure that if there is need for improvements at that intersection for safety's sake.
There are.
That we make it important. So, there, yes, and there, we believe there are as well, but we had to wait until Canoy Crossing was largely built out. Otherwise, the study wouldn't have told us what we needed to know in order to prove that we need to make improvements to that intersection, so.
And
We often get notices, please do not flush this or that, because.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and that's reasonable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we love, again, years ago, working on economic development here in the borough, we all often saw the downtown as between these two largely untapped markets. We've got the students on one side and Masonic Village on the other, and how can we do a much better job of getting those folks, all of those folks, generationally into the downtown to take advantage of it. And I know Denise is doing a wonderful job.
Working really hard at that.
Very, very personally working on getting folks to understand that there's a neat experience to have when you come downtown and do some shopping and have lunch and spend the day. So, yeah.
Have they thought of just a shuttle?
Yes. So actually, part of the
Get a volunteer to drive it.
It feels easy and it's not. But it's a great idea, and it is something that Masonic, the college, and the borough are talking about.
It's handicap accessibility and.
Oh, geez,
basically
federal
it's
government.
just- It's not
So-
the government, it's actual, like,
How do
there
you-
are a lot of
how do you
spaces
get
they
them
can't
off the
get
bus?
How do you
through.
get 'em- If you can't get on and off the bus, you can't use it, that's all there is to it. Question about the crosswalks,
Yes.
maybe you can't answer, maybe this is a police thing. There's signs on some of them,
Mhm.
the flashing things, then there's ones that don't have the signs. Do you have to stop at every single one?
When you say you, do you mean you as a
If I'm
driver?
if I'm driving a car?
You don't stop unless someone is in
Well,
the
no,
crosswalk and.
right, but
and-
if there's, the signs are confusing, either put a sign on every one of them, or isn't the law you have to stop at a crosswalk?
If a person
Anyways.
is in the crosswalk,
Right.
ready to cross,
Right.
yes.
But the signs make it like, I don't have to stop at this one if there's a person, because there's only signs on some of them.
So our public works staff looked at putting them, the flashing ones within the downtown area. So that's why not all of them. So when you go up towards, like Rita's and Lucky Ducks, I don't think that crosswalk sign has one. So we are looking more from Market Street, and maybe 2 or 3 blocks down.
So like, for example, like down by Brothers Pizza, there's one at the one, but not at the other, like right across the street.
But aren't they supposed to work with the light signs? I mean, there's a
Though,
no walk sign and a walk sign, so the pedestrians aren't supposed to be walking, there's no walk.
That's correct, on the
Oh,
light.
you're talking about the intersection.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
any crosswalk,
Okay.
is what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
yeah, so the flashing lights that are on the crosswalk signs, those are not connected to the traffic
The
signals.
mid-block
So like
crossings.
those are not connected to the traffic signals, but the traffic signal themselves, we've been synchronized from West Donegal all the way out through Mountjoy Township for the synchronization of those lights. It's more a matter of, and I think the question is where those lights are flashing versus not flashing at that crosswalk.
I just see a lot of people stop at the one with a sign, and there's somebody crossing, and then there's somebody crossing, and they just go, because they don't think they have to stop, they think, I see that all the time.
Oh, that's, yeah.
So there should be a sign, I think, or no signs, not partial
Yeah,
signs.
to get them consistent would make it better, for sure, yeah.
Certainly something we can take back to the chief and public works director.
The people walking, you're trying to legislate common sense, and we know that never works.
Right.
I mean,
The other
Tell us
question,
how you really feel, Ed.
well, I mean, true, I mean,
Yeah.
people who just randomly walk with their head in their phone
Mhm.
are
They should
basically
be
asking
hit.
to get
right,
removed from the intersection.
And I'm in it, I don't care,
But
stop.
in PA, isn't PA the whole state that the pedestrian has right of way in every crosswalk?
I believe you are correct, but again, the pedestrian has to be in the crosswalk and signaling, making it obvious that they
That
are
goes back
about
to
to
point
cross.
one with the common sense.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Yes, sir.
Years ago, I think there was a meeting about 2040 or something like that, do you know what I'm talking about?
Places 2040 is the
Can you,
county comp plan.
can you talk about what that is, and how do you
Yeah.
guys interact with that?
Absolutely, so Places 2040 is the county's adopted comprehensive plan. And they, again, did that planning in-house, Lancaster County Planning Department did that planning. And now we as a region are doing our comp plan based on the Places 2040, the 5 big ideas, and the strategies that are included in the Places 2040 plan are ideas and strategies and goals that we will be adopting and incorporating into our regional plan. So it's very, very important. The work they did there was very important and has helped us tremendously build our local regional comp plan. So Places 2040 is a great plan.
Okay, first, a comment with Bainbridge and Masonic Drive. You can put a roundabout there, but please make note that Ralph wants Bart to lose his house right there. We can put one there. Can you, 2 things, if you could address what's happening with the planters downtown?
Yes, we can,
As
yes.
well as, you said about doing improvements at the Borough Park. And if you're on Facebook, you saw that the one pavilion was vandalized
Yeah.
pretty